Good afternoon. Today is Monday, June 17th, and I'd like to call to order the regular session of our zoning meeting. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Lundy,
Here.
Commissioner Durrett,
Here.
Commissioner Oster, Commissioner Ward,
Here.
Commissioner Schoonmaker,
Here.
Commissioner Hill,
Here.
Commissioner Lee, Commissioner Beeler,
Here.
Commissioner Daly,
Here.
Commissioner Jay,
Here.
Commissioner Frazier. Present. 10 members are present.
Thank you. To my left is Ms. Haley Wilson with the clerk's office, and to my right is Mr. Moyers, who's with the law office. And I don't believe we have any elected officials in the audience. We have former Chair Brad Anders, but he'll be joining us in a moment anyway. Seeing none, we'll move forward, please, with Commissioner Frazier.
Please stand if you are able with a proper salute to the flag for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving on to amendments to the agenda. We will not need item C because right now the minutes are still attached to our full agenda that we heard last month. Please note that item 2 is a withdrawal and item 11 is a deferral. Are there any other changes to be noted to the zoning agenda?
Second.
Hold on just a second. Thank you. I have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Daly, second by Commissioner Durrett. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to public forum, we do have several signed up, and as is typically the process with zoning, we hold those until the item is actually read, and then you'll have an opportunity at that point to speak directly as the item is being heard. Does anyone out there have any objection to that signed up for public forum? Thank you. Seeing none, we'll move on to our first agenda item. Oh, hold on. Before we do that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Moyers for swearing in of anyone testifying.
All right, if you're here to address this body on any item on the agenda, if you think you're going to speak for or against any item on the agenda, please stand and raise your right hand. All right, you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're going to give tonight be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Be seated, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moyers. Moving on to the zoning agenda, I've had a request by the 8th District Commissioner for an exception to listen to item 3 first. So without objection, we will go to item 3 and then back to item 1.
Item number 3 is a request of Jonathan Harper for rezoning from A agricultural to RA low-density residential, and property is located at 2705 Shipetown Road, parcel ID 42047 in the 8th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Please come forward. Would you state your name and address, please, for the record? Hold on just a minute. Thank you. All right, try again.
Yes, Jonathan Harper, 7038 Rising Road, Knoxville.
Thank you. Is there any opposition present for this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks, if you'll read the recommendation.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the RA low-density residential zone because it's consistent with the sector plan and other development in the area by a vote of 12-0 on consent.
Thank you. Would you like to address your project?
Yeah, I'm planning to divide the property in order to put a manufactured home on one of the lots for my niece to live in.
All right. Seeing no opposition, I'll turn this over to Commissioner Beeler.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for moving that item up for us. I have no further questions on this. I'm prepared to make a motion that we approve this rezoning from A agricultural to RA low-density residential per the Planning Commission's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Motion by Beeler, second by Ward. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck on your project, sir.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Item number 1 is a request of Brad Anders, Knox County Emergency Communications District, for a street name change of an unnamed easement between West Beaver Creek Drive and Powell Drive to DeBusk Lane, and this is in 7th Commission District.
Thank you. Your name and address, please.
Brad Anders, Knox County Emergency Communications District, 605 Bernard Avenue.
Thank you. Is there any opposition? Seeing none, Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the name change of the unnamed easement to DeBusk Lane as requested by the Knox County Emergency Communications District by a vote of 12-0 on consent.
Thank you. Mr. Anders, if you'd address this, please.
Yes, ma'am. So, thank you, Chair. What we're doing, we're going through and we're finding some errors in our addressing. This one goes back into the 80s. The Royal Industries obviously built numerous facilities on that area and gave it a DeBusk Lane address. The county actually went and hung a sign as DeBusk Lane, but it's never been officially adopted as DeBusk Lane. And there's another DeBusk Lane out west Knoxville where we were sending fire trucks to the wrong address. And so to cure that, we're going to, it's more economical, more efficient to name this DeBusk Lane and go out to the West Knoxville DeBusk Lane. And there's an application, I believe, next month to rename that DeBusk Lane. There's one in Commissioner Daley's district that's a broken block range on two different, one's in Vestal, one's in near Johnson Bible College. It's the same street name, very similar numbers. We sent the ambulance to the wrong location. And so we're trying to get those cured, as many as we can find, as quickly as we could find them. So you'll see some more of this over the next 6 or 8 months, trying to repair some broken response plans.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll turn this over to Commissioner Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have really no questions and as far as this, and I'd make a motion to approve this.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve as presented by Lee, second by Frazier. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Your motion carries.
Thank you. You've done great with the room, by the way. The decorating is very nice.
They didn't ask us. Thank you, Mr. Anders. Next item, please.
Item number 4 is a request of Masana Investments LLC for rezoning from A agricultural to PR planned residential up to 12 dwelling units per acre. Property is located at 5630 Millertown Pike, parcel ID 060019, part of, in the 8th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? You'd introduce yourself, please?
Sorry about that. Drew Staton, P.O. Box 11315, Knoxville, Tennessee 37939.
Thank you. Is there any opposition present to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks.
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone up to 9 dwelling units per acre because it's compatible with the changing development conditions and supported by residential amenities, subject to one condition by a vote of 12-0 on consent.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your project? All right. Any questions, commissioners? Seeing none, Commissioner Beeler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with the recommendation of both the staff and the Planning Commission on this one. I would move that we approve the PR zone up to 9 dwelling units per acre, subject to the one condition, as recommended by Planning Commission.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Beeler, second by Ward on the floor to approve as presented. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck. Next item, please.
Item number 5 is a request of Jamie Falcon for rezoning from A agricultural to RA low-density residential. Property is located at 10925 Woody Drive, parcel ID 143038 in the 5th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Your name and address, please, sir.
It's Jamie Falcon at 10925 Woody Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37934, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there any opposition to this item? Seeing none, Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the RA low-density residential zone because it's consistent with the sector plan and development in the area by a vote of 12-0 on consent.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to your project, sir?
I don't necessarily call it a project. I'm retired military and retired from the City of Knoxville Fire Department. I want to build a home for my son to keep him close so he can take care of me when I can't take care of myself.
I don't blame you. All right, Commissioners, are there any questions about this? Commissioner Daly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a question. Thank you for your service, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Seeing no other comments, Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the RA zone because it's consistent with the sector plan and development in the area.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor by Schoonmaker, second by Daly. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Your motion carries. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair and the Commission.
Next item, please.
Item number 6 is a request of Betty Sewell Taylor for rezoning from A agricultural to RA low-density residential. Property is located at 8616 Trout Road, parcel ID 041217 in the 8th Commission District.
Thank you. You are the applicant?
I am not. I'm actually the granddaughter of my grandmother who's sitting over here, but just for ease and
Sure.
comfort, I came to speak up on her behalf.
If you'd give us your name and address, please.
Would you like mine or hers?
Yours, please.
My name is Jessica Marrero. I live at 5109 Windtrace Lane, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37914.
Thank you. Is there any opposition present to this project? Seeing none, Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the RA low-density residential zone because it's consistent with the sector plan and compatible with the surrounding development by a vote of 12-0 on consent.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to this zoning?
No, the only reason why we're here is because my grandmother would like to split the lot to her 2 daughters, and since it's agriculture and it's less than 2 acres, we had to get approval to get it removed from agriculture to residential to get the split approved.
I understand. Are there any questions or comments, Commissioners? Seeing none, Commissioner Beeler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move we approve this rezoning to RA as recommended by Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Beeler, second by Ward to approve as presented. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck to you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next. Go ahead.
Item number 7 is a request of Masana Investments LLC for rezoning from A agricultural to PR planned residential up to 5 dwelling units per acre. Property is located at 0 and 7740 Cooper Meadows Lane, parcel IDs 020, 12001, and 12002 in the 8th Commission District.
Thank you. You are the applicant. Would you introduce yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Drew Staton, P.O. Box 11315, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37939.
Thank you. Is there any opposition present to address this zoning, this project? Seeing none, Commissioner Brooks, or Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone up to 4 dwelling units per acre because it is consistent with the sector plan and the surrounding development by a vote of 12-0.
Thank you. Commissioners, are there any questions or comments? Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question of clarification. So will you be accessing this parcel from Cooper's Meadow subdivision?
Correct.
And have you spoken with those residents and informed them of what you're planning to do and actually talk to them about how they feel about it?
So personally, I have not. My employer's out of town, so I can't speak to that accurately right now.
Okay. I would really like for you all to have that conversation before we actually vote on something like this. I think having community input is very important, especially if you're accessing their cul-de-sac. That's something that I know I would like to see, but I don't know if my colleagues agree. So unless you want to, I mean, I guess the district commissioner would have to decide what to do about that, but those are my thoughts.
Are there any other comments? Commissioner Ward?
That would be addressed in the next stage, correct, Director Brooks?
Yes, so there will be another phase to this project. Before they can move forward, they have to submit a development plan.
Seeing no other lights, Commissioner Beeler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sure, yeah, I mean, I respect the sentiment of engaging with the neighbors if you're going to go through Cooper Meadows. I will say, though, I have heard nothing from anyone in opposition to this at all. I have heard nothing. I have not been contacted by anyone in my community who is against this. This is a small square to fill in what's left of what is an L-shaped subdivision. I think the density is consistent with what's already there. I would move that we approve this per planning's recommendation of 4 per acre.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve as Planning Commission recommended by Beeler, second by Ward. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Good luck with this, sir.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Madam Chair?
Oh, yes.
I was a no.
I apologize. Record that as 9 and 1. Thank you for that.
Item number 8 is a request of Masana Investments LLC for rezoning from A agricultural to PR planned residential up to 5 dwelling units per acre. Property is located at 0 Harvey Road, parcel ID 169-00903 in the 5th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present?
Yes, Drew Staton, P.O. Box 11315, Knoxville, Tennessee 37939.
Thank you. Is there any opposition present to this zoning? Seeing none, Director Brooks?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the planned residential zone up to 3 dwelling units per acre by a vote of 11-1.
Thank you. Any questions, commissioners? Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So am I missing something here, Director Brooks? I'm very disturbed by the fact that Planning Commission approved PR up to 3 after we just spent 2 years reviewing our land uses. And then they basically ignored the updated plans designation of rural living at 2 units per acre. I think that that jeopardizes the integrity of our efforts and the Planning Commission as a body, and quite frankly, this commission, if we were to accept that recommendation. I do not support Planning Commission's recommendation of 3 because it's not consistent with the newly updated plan.
Director Brooks? Do you have any comments? Are there any other questions or comments? I have a question, Director Brooks. Was this filed before or after the passing of our new growth plan?
It was filed before.
before. All right. Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Your staff recommended that this property be rezoned for a maximum of 2 units per acre. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And the reasoning for it in the documents provided to us was it was not consistent with the comprehensive plan.
That what was not. So our staff recommended 2 because they stated that it was consistent with the plan, the sector plan designation.
That's not what I'm looking at here. If you look at the documents that were provided to the county commission, it says consistent with land use plan. No, this is not consistent with the comprehensive plan.
Oh, I apologize. So the comprehensive plan, no, the one that is currently in effect that was recently adopted, no, this would not be consistent.
Right, so the staff got it right at 2 units an acre.
Planning Commission recommended up to 3 because they
I
felt like it was
understand, but they're
consistent.
just an advisory body, but your paid staff that you hired, they're the ones that said 2 units per acre, is that correct?
And I would say we are also advisory as well. We advise the Planning Commission.
Okay. So I guess the question for the law director would be, because this has now been, our new comprehensive land use plan and growth plan has been adopted by the state of Tennessee, if we vote anything different than what that plan says, are we violating state law?
It's the growth plan that is the mandate you have to follow. The comprehensive plan, there's a little bit more wiggle room with it, but the statute says that land use decisions must be consistent with the adopted growth plan. So I'd have to ask Director Brooks, what would the maximum under the growth plan be for this parcel?
So the current.
And
it's
I
a-
think your
it's a pl-
microphone's off, or I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Let me move it closer. It is within the planned growth area, but it's designated, the place type is rural living, which allows consideration of planned residential up to 2. That's for the new plan,
That's under the growth plan or the comprehensive
the
plan?
comprehensive plan, but it is
Okay.
within the planned growth area.
So if it's in the planned growth area, there isn't the 2 or 1 limitation, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, so at that point, I would think best practice is you'd want to be, you'd want to follow what the comprehensive plan says, but I don't think that you're mandated to do that by state law in the same way that you are with the growth plan.
But I thought we had voted as part of the growth plan for the rural residential in that area for 2 dwelling units per acre.
Yes, under the newly adopted comprehensive plan, it is, the place type is rural living, which only allows consideration up to 2 dwelling units per acre, per that comprehensive plan.
And, and this is what we're supposed to be moving forward to, not going backwards. We're supposed to be doing anything in that whole quadrant land area, it's maximum of 2 units an acre. I just don't understand how this body could then just decide that, hey, we're going to not follow the 2 units an acre for the future here. So I'm hoping some of my colleagues will have some insight or additional thoughts.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I imagine this will only happen for a couple of months, but with this overlap, but Mr. Moyers, is there a sort of a grandfathered timeline? I mean, if this was submitted before that was approved, does it fall under the old law rules or the new rules?
As regards the comprehensive plan, you could potentially say that it might be grandfathered if it was applied for before the plan was adopted, but that is not the case with the growth plan. The growth plan, the statute on the growth plan says that once you adopt the growth plan, all your land use decisions have to be consistent with that. As it happens with this piece of property, the growth plan isn't an impediment itself because this is in the planned growth area. So, you know, could you say that since this was applied for prior to, I'm unaware of any mandate in state law regarding the comprehensive plan that is black and white in the way that it is with the growth plan. So I think you have more room to move. Having said that, you know, you have adopted this. You need to have some valid reason for going away from it. As I say, if this was applied for before, you could find that it's grandfathered under the old plan. I don't think there'd be a legal prescription against that, but I think there would be with regard to I'm sorry, I meant the comprehensive plan. With the growth plan, you could not do that. Once the growth plan goes into effect, you must comply with it. That's the minimum, the base.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Brooks, again, can you repeat, under the growth plan, what are the density levels? For
This-
planned growth area, or I get, yeah.
Yeah, so this particular piece of property is in the planned growth area, so it's not limited to 2 dwelling units per acre. If it was in the rural area, it'd be limited, but the planned growth area is not limited. So if you all were to move forward with this rezoning as recommended by Planning Commission, we would recommend it at some point in the near future, we do a plan amendment to match it.
This is stuck between like every plan and right in the middle of timing and blah.
Commissioner Beeler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is it correct that the staff recommended 2 on this?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and the reason was?
Well, a primary reason for us was we were in the midst of updating this, creating this new plan. And so we did take that into consideration. It was one of the considerations.
Okay, that the place type under the comprehensive plan
Correct, yes.
would limit it to 2. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think if we have a comprehensive plan, we need to follow it. That's what I promised my constituents, was that we would wed the growth plan to the comprehensive plan. And I've even been on record as saying that those that attempted to get under the wire at the 11th hour while the spirit of these plans was underway, I would not look favorably on that. And I think the new comprehensive plan is what we need to abide by. I think last month's a great example. I think we went all the way down to the minutia of our plans last month on a particular item. Not really even sure if I agreed with the decision we made, but it was a moot point because the applicant withdrew their application. But if we're going to do that, then I don't think we need to depart from the comprehensive plan a month later. So I agree with Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, can I interject real quick?
Please.
Thank you. I believe this body, I think it was 2 or 3 months ago, approved 3 units an acre for a larger piece just down the road. And so for consistency, we feel that this does make sense.
Thank you. Commissioner Schoonmaker?
I was
Or
going to
let's
defer
see,
to Daley.
All right, Commissioner Daly?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can't say much more than what Commissioner Beeler said, that we agreed to follow these new plans, and if we start varying now, what's going to happen in the future? And the planning commissioners that vote on these, they're going to have to start following these plans also. Because we spent $1 million, 2 years to come up with these plans, and I think they're great plans. I think it's a great plan. But we've got to follow each commission, the new commission, this commission, and planning commissioners that vote, they need to follow these plans. And I agree with Commissioner Schoonmaker. I can't see that it'd be no more than the 2 that the plan has.
Commissioner Ward?
Director Brooks, I have a question. For the rural living, don't we have more than one set of restrictions? We can go up to PR5 in some cases and PR1 in other cases? Or is that wrong? Am I thinking of something else?
Let me just double check the, are you asking about the plan residential up to?
Yeah, is it? Maybe I'm
It's up
thinking
to
of it-
two.
Up to two, and then I'm thinking of something else then probably. Never mind then, sorry.
So, Director Brooks, to be clear, this application was submitted before the plan was passed, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to point out, staff's recommendation aligns with the old existing, or the land use classification of ag. The future land use is rural living. So 2 units per acre aligns with the old sector plan and the new place type. So I just wanted to point that out.
All right,
I have a quick question.
I have a question for our law director.
Yes, ma'am.
I thought that I'm asking that if an applicant presents on a sector plan, which I know no longer exists, but a sector plan and a zoning that would be acceptable under, that came with the property, that we were charged with having to, we could not change the rights of people once if they already had their property.
That dealt with zoning, okay?
Just the
So,
zoning.
right, that dealt with zoning. So what was expressed in all of these documents was, if you have a piece of property, for example, that's already zoned PR density 6 units per acre, and under the growth plan and the new comprehensive plan, the most you could have would be 4 units an acre, you would not lose that 6 unit per acre. We're not going to downzone anybody's property by the adoption of these new maps and growth plans. But going forward, we should comply with the plans. Now, this is an unusual case because it was applied for under the old comprehensive plan, and I'm being told it was consistent with the old comprehensive plan. So this body could, if it wanted to, find that it's grandfathered because of that. This is a situation that we shouldn't see much after the next month or two, I would think. All of those should be cleared out. This is just kind of an unusual situation. But I was just looking at the statute, and again, I don't see anything that mandates compliance with the general plan in the same way that the statutes mandate compliance with the growth plan. So I think you're free actors here. You can do whatever you think is most appropriate.
So to be clear, we are mandated to follow the new growth plan,
Yes.
but if zoning presented was the same as what came with the property,
Well,
then even if it's a change in the growth plan?
I think what I'm trying to say is, if this rezoning complies with the growth plan, then at 3 an acre, for example, if that complies with the growth plan, I'm told that it is, then you're safe to act on that as it is. Where we are is, I'm being told that this rezoning, this density, would have been consistent with the growth plan, the comprehensive plan that was in place when it was applied for. It has since, we've adopted a new comprehensive plan. I think this body could legally consider that this application was grandfathered and considered under the old comprehensive plan, or this body could find, no, we've adopted a new plan and we're going to be consistent with that going forward. I think this body can do either one of those things. I don't know if I can make it much plainer. I think you can do that because what I'm being told is that the 3 units per acre is consistent with the new growth plan, and that's the only thing that you, by statute, must comply with. Now, I think that you should, and maybe people might make an argument that you must comply with the new comprehensive plan. I'm not going to argue with that, but I do believe that given the unique circumstances that this was applied for a zoning that would have been legal at the time that it was applied for, you could, if you wished, find that it's grandfathered without setting too much of a precedent, because as I say, this is a very small class of applications that are going to be coming through the pipeline that were applied for before we made the change. I think this body could legally take that into account if you wished, or you could properly follow the current comprehensive plan and say that's the most we're going to go. I think you can do either one of those things depending on what you think is most fair and most appropriate.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Moyers, I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. For months, we have been counseled that we were eliminating sector plans with the adoption of the comprehensive plan. They were removed from our agenda. So I'm quite confused as to why we're still referencing sector plans. And so I do not think we have a choice. I do not think that we should teeter back and forth. We need to firmly plant our decision-making on what we have spent 2 years determining is the best use of our land. That's just my thoughts. I hope that my colleagues will agree. But we can't keep saying, oh, you can kind of look at the sector plan and this situation, and then, but you're going to have to remove them from your agenda. We're not going to reference them. You can't consider them. I don't agree with that. We invested a lot of money, a lot of time in creating a new comprehensive plan, and I think we need to stick with it.
Thank you. Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with Commissioner Frazier's 2 times of comments. I think the development community has been aware of this process for 2 years with Advanced Knox. I appreciate Commissioner Beeler's comments that potentially people were trying to bring some in on the last minute, kind of in the back door, so to speak, to try to run something through, even though they've known for 2 years now what this is all going to change all of the zoning and the land use requirements for Knox County. So I'm prepared to make a motion to approve the planned residential zone at up to 2 dwelling units per acre.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Schoonmaker, second by Commissioner Frazier, to accept a recommendation up to 2 dwelling units per acre. Correct?
Correct, as the staff said.
Is there any further discussion on this? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 9 is a request of Masana Investments LLC for rezoning from A agricultural to PR planned residential up to 5 dwelling units per acre. Property is located at 7505 Blacks Ferry Road, parcel ID 66051 in the 6th Commission District.
Thank you. Introduction, please.
Drew Staton, P.O. Box 11315, Knoxville, Tennessee 37939.
Thank you. I do see that there is opposition. Is Mr. Dossie here? Mr. Dossie, were you sworn in? Yes. All right. Hold on just a minute, sir. Commissioner Brooks, would you go ahead and read your recommendation, please?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve the PR Plan Residential Zone up to 4 dwelling units per acre because it's consistent with the sector plan designation by a vote of 12-0.
All right. According to our rules, the applicant has the opportunity to speak, followed by any opposition. I will give you 5 minutes, sir, to address this project.
Thank you. We just respectfully request the approval per Planning Commission's recommendation. I can be here to answer any questions for opposition or this body.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dossi, if you'd come forward and introduce yourself with your name and address, please, and you'll also have 5 minutes to speak to this.
Thank you. My name is Scott Dossi. I live at 7530. There we go. All right, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Usually I don't have a problem with people telling me I need to be louder, so sorry about that, guys. My name is Scott Dossi. We own the property at 7533 Blacks Ferry Road. And I stand before you tonight in opposition of the zoning approval for plans for 7505 Blacks Ferry Road. My wife and I recently purchased 7533 Blacks Ferry Road. We spent the last 12 years of our life preparing, saving, and searching for our forever home. We have spent 22 years of our marriage living less than 20 feet from our closest neighbor. And the one thing we know for certain is we wanted enough land to guarantee our privacy. We bought this property with the understanding that there was no immediate danger of the surrounding property being developed. Undisclosed to us, there were already development plans in progress. Had we known this, we would not have purchased the property. Unfortunately, now we find ourselves stuck in this situation. And while we understand we do not control the use of property owned by others, we also don't want the value of our property and our level of privacy diminished by the development of said property. The reasons we oppose this development include, but are not limited to, the following. Number one, the diminishment of our property value from having a dense subdivision development less than 100 feet from my back door. Number two, the environmental damage associated with having a hillside protection area developed in such close proximity to our property. Number three, the environmental damage associated with having a development in such close proximity of a protected blue line stream adjacent to our property. Number four, the danger created by the extra traffic caused by this development. Blacks Ferry Road, as it currently exists, is barely wide enough for 2 cars to pass each other without slowing down or 1 car moving to the side of the road. The additional traffic will make this road much more treacherous. Number five, the extended danger created by the additional traffic at the intersection of Blacks Ferry and West Emory Road. Currently, when pulling onto West Emory Road from Blacks Ferry, you have to proceed without being able to see the oncoming traffic due to the blind curve on West Emory Road. This development will only exacerbate this problem. Number six, last but not least, we oppose this development due to the loss of privacy leading to the diminished personal enjoyment of our property. I stand before you tonight to ask that the rezoning required for this planned development is not allowed to proceed without guaranteed protection boundaries and barriers to prevent the diminished value to our property and the loss of personal enjoyment. We are very open to discussion on these matters, and we hope this can be resolved amicably, but make no mistake, we have the motivation, the determination, and the resources to fight this through all legal paths. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dossi. Commissioners, are there any questions? You can sit down right this minute, sir. Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just looking at this property, Director Brooks, can you clarify for me how many acres of this property is actually buildable?
I can't tell you that, what percentage of this is buildable. I can tell you what how many acres are within the hillside, non-hillside. I can tell you what percentage is in the 0 to 15%, and 15 to 25%.
So looking at the topography, the Blue Line Stream, it seems to run through the flatter area of this property.
Yes, there's two of them.
There are
So that
two
would
of
have
them.
to be addressed during the development plan if it
And
was to move forward.
can you clarify what the protections are for those Blue Line streams?
I will defer to my colleague in Knox County.
Yes,
Elliott?
the stream buffers will apply, so there'll be a 50-foot buffer applied to the stream,
To both streams?
to both streams, yes.
And I saw it was noted that there are several environmental constraints as well, and the future land use map is rural conservation.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question is for engineering. When you look at the shape of the property, there's potentially for two entrances or exits from that development. Which will engineering most likely recommend?
I think we would wait until we got the development plan and make that decision, but we would probably prefer the one furthest to the north.
Okay.
And for the record, would you give us your name and department, please?
Oh, Steve Elliott, Knox County Engineering Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
And then I have a question for Mr. Dawsey. Is your house, there's two houses that separate the entrances. Is yours the one in the middle between the two entrances?
My house is on the right-hand side of the entrance. It's, there's a smaller house, and then there's my house is the white house with black trim to the right at 7533 Blacks Ferry Road.
Okay, yeah.
We own an L-shaped piece of property there.
I
We
see.
have an easement on the driveway that goes down immediately, I guess, to the left after you cross the stream there is where the property starts. That's around right at 100 feet from my back door. So my big concern about this is the development of the lower side of that property.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Has the developer or anyone contacted you about the potential development, Commissioner, or Mr. Dawsey?
No, ma'am. When we bought the property on top of it, this was not disclosed to us either. We asked this specific question, and this was not disclosed at that time either. So quite frankly, I'm in a position here that I'm not happy to be in.
Commissioner Daley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Elliott, that 50-foot buffer on that Blue Lime stream, that's going to actually be 50 on each side?
Yes, 50 on each side, so it'll be a 100-foot buffer
And
total.
That's not a variance either, is it?
They can disturb the outer 25, but the inner 25, so the inner 50 feet of it would be do not disturb, other than for utilities or, some sort of approved crossing with an ARAP.
So nothing can be built in that 50?
That's correct. Nothing can be built in the outer 25 either, but it can be disturbed and graded.
Okay. I know this is a tough question, but, BZ, do you think that there might be any variances that would have to come out of because of the hilltop and all that?
I'm not sure.
I know, that's a tough question. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Stanton, did you have a comment? I see no other lights. Director Brooks, looking at the recommendations, which I believe we're at 4 per acre.
Yes, that was Planning Commission's recommendation. They requested 5.
Just a moment here. I'm looking at considerations, additional considerations. Page 10-2. While the sector plan was the active plan at the time of the request, Knox County Comprehensive Plan became effective April 26. This property has an RC, Rural Conservation Place type, which allows consideration of the PR zone with a density up to 5 units per acre. I'm also reading that it acknowledges 3.9 acres of hillside protection on, and the tract, I believe, is 8 acres. I believe that was correct. If we were to approve this today, under our current plan, what would be allowed?
The place type is rural conservation, so rural conservation does allow consideration up to 5, which is what the applicant is asking for.
Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, to answer your question a little bit differently, rural conservation, PR up to 5 is only partially related, meaning the zoning district may be appropriate, but with qualifications, such as development plan with conditions. So it's not directly related.
Mr. Elliott, could you speak to Blacks Ferry Road, please?
Yes, we've spoke with the developer prior to the planning commission meeting, and we informed them that we would ask for some road improvements from their entrance back out to Emory Road at the development plan stage. We would also want to look at the intersection at Emory Road and ask they participate in trying to improve that sight distance at that intersection. It is not very good.
It's not good even a little bit.
Yeah, it's substandard today, so we would ask they participate with us in making that better, improving that.
So if it's substandard at the moment, is this information that planning had when they were looking into this, or is it a consideration?
Yes, it was one of the considerations that we took into when we made the recommendation of less than what the applicant was requesting. We review all of our rezoning applications with Knox County staff as well.
Mr. Dossi, I see where your property is located, and I certainly understand your concerns. Mr. Stanton, has there been any discussion with the homeowners that you're surrounding there?
No, ma'am. It's difficult to do that when we have no idea what our density will be because it fluctuates. So no, ma'am, not at this time.
Commissioner Jay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To our Engineering and Public Works Department, we talked about this intersection, I think, several years ago when we were talking about Northampton Commons and sort of further up the road. And a better portion of why this intersection sightlines are quite difficult, if you're coming out of Blacks Ferry and you look to the west, you have a significant berm, but you also have a big chunk of trees. But especially if you're looking to the east, it's almost entirely, based upon the wooding of there. Is that, we talked about having that cleared, but is that not, are we not able to do that because of the easement with the state route?
I think looking back to the west, in order to remove that vegetation, we'd have to be on someone else's property. So
What
I
about
think
to the east?
To the east, I believe,
I feel like we talked about going ahead and improving the site distance regardless.
it looks like to the east, we could probably accomplish that with removing some vegetation that is within the right-of-way.
Okay, I think we ought to do that anyway, regardless of this.
Yeah.
It's something we talked about a couple years ago, and I'd respectfully request you add that to the list of things to, if we have the ability to do it and the right to be able to be in that right of way, we had to help that intersection regardless, but thank you for the clarification.
Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Engineering, in our documents, it says that Black's Ferry is 16 feet to possibly 18 feet wide. And you, in your discussion, said that you have had conversations with the developer about improving the road down to Emery Road. In previous times, we've had discussions from engineering to a developer, and they've made promises that were never held up, and then Knox County got stuck with the bill. Is there any thing that's in concrete that says they're going to provide X number of dollars funding to improve that road down to Emery Road?
Not at this time, but if you make that a condition, we will not sign a plat until that condition is met or we have adequate bond to ensure the work is completed.
Because otherwise, it's just a kind of a hearsay agreement that yeah, oh, I'll improve the road, just give me the zoning, but I don't really have to.
This work would require an MOU from the developers. They would have to enter into an MOU with us, and they would provide the funding, we would manage the project, and I believe those MOUs come back before this body once we've agreed upon it. Correct, Mr. Moyers?
Come back before this body?
No.
Yes.
Come make it.
I thought they did too.
Uh-uh.
Yeah, I thought that was the new process. They came
Oh.
back and you guys approved them.
We've never voted on one. Yeah, between the developer and Knox County, no. So I guess my question then, to make sure I got a clear answer, the developer can say they want to participate on improving Black's Ferry Pike, is it called? But there's no legal authority to make them do that at this point in time if we approve that zoning.
Yes, we have the road ordinance that was adopted where the offsite improvements ordinance, they would have to enter into an MOU with us and provide the funding, then we would manage the project. That ordinance was adopted May of '23, I believe.
Okay, but
And
they
I'm-
could, oh.
And I'm positive, I thought those MOUs came back before this body, but.
No, I've never seen one. But we've never seen an MOU from a developer to come back before us, no. So would the road improvements have to start before construction on the homes began?
Yes, yes, we'd want to see those completed before people are occupying those homes.
Okay, thank you.
I see no other lights. I am very concerned. I understand that in a developer's eyes that 8 acres is probably not a huge project, and perhaps I cannot do this as presented. Black's Ferry Road is absolutely maxed out. I think we can condition the road. I do think that is a possibility. I am concerned about adequate buffer between not only Mr. Dossey's property, but the people that are sandwiched between those two easements. Have you even given any thought to that? Because you're going to be clustering a huge amount right at the bottom of that hill.
We don't know that yet, but we have thought about it. And it's tough for us to go to all this work. If we get shot down to 1 unit per acre, then it's not feasible. And so we've wasted a ton of time and money in doing this. But we have spoken with the county. We improve roads on most of our subdivisions. You can look at Asheville Highway, Brackett Road, several that we do have MOUs, and we do spend a lot of our money out of pocket to create some sort of agreement with all parties. We're open to buffers. We do that constantly. We're more than happy to do that. But at this present stage, it's really difficult to make any concrete promises because we have no real idea.
And I appreciate what you're saying, Mr. Stanton, although it only takes really a phone call and a meeting with a few of the residents around there to make that happen. That is not a cost prohibitive type of activity. These people up that road have just been beat to death. I mean, they just have, and that's not a reflection on your firm at all. It just is a fact of the matter. Can I? Is it appropriate for me to request a postponement on this and condition it on them speaking with the neighbors?
You're a member of
and-
this body. If you wish to move for deferral, you have as much right as anybody else does.
All right. I would like to make a motion for a 30-day deferral. To be heard at the July. So that is, yes, it is at July 15th, the July 15th meeting. That is my motion. My encouragement is that you contact these surrounding neighbors and talk with them about something you can do to make them feel a little more comfortable. I do support development. I hate to just turn it down flat like that, but there's just got to be some communication with others on that road. So my motion is to defer until the July zoning meeting.
Second.
We have a proper motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Item number 10 is a request of Storm Schuler for rezoning from A agricultural and RB general residential to PR planned residential up to 2 dwelling units per acre. Property is located at 8922 Pickens Gap Road, parcel ID 150044 in the 9th Commission District.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? Would you introduce yourself?
You'd think after 10 people went, I'd have figured that out. Taylor Forrester, 1111 North Shore Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee, 37919.
Thank you, Mr. Forrester. I do see that there is opposition present. Would you raise your hand, please? All right. Are all three of you wanting to speak to this? Yes. All right. Director Brooks, would you please read the recommendation on
Madam Chair,
this?
point of order, please. I believe some of the individuals may have come in late. I just wanted to make sure they were all sworn, those that will be speaking.
Thank you. Have all three of you been sworn in?
All right, if y'all would stand, please. If you
We'll
wish
take
to
care
speak
of
to this
that.
body, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right.
Thank you, Commissioner Beeler. Director Brooks, would you please read the recommendation on this?
Planning Commission recommends that County Commission approve PR Plan Residential Zone up to 1 dwelling unit per acre because it is consistent with the rural residential land use classification and surrounding development by subject to one condition by a vote of 12-1.
All right, thank you. Mr. Forrester, I'll have you speak first to this, and I'll grant you 5 minutes. And then the three of you that are wanting to speak in opposition, if you could try to work together and restrict it to as close to that as possible, it would be greatly appreciated by this body. All right, Mr. Forrester.
On behalf of the applicant, we're requesting a rezoning to plan residential at a density of up to 2 dwelling units per acre. The designation for this property under the growth policy plan is in the rural area designation. Would point out that is within a few hundred feet of the planned growth area boundary. This request at 2 units an acre does satisfy the requirements under the growth policy plan for the allowance of up to 2 dwelling units per acre. The new land use designation for the property is rural living, which we discussed at length this evening. The primary type of residential zoning for the rural living is the planned residential up to 2 dwelling units an acre. The property presently has a split zoning. It's about equally divided, where half of the property has the old RB, the general residential district, and the other half has is zoned agricultural. So it's about 40 acres in the RB and a little over 40 acres in zone currently as agricultural. As you're aware, the RB zone is a use by right zone. One of those use by right, there are several of them, but one of the use by rights is that it does allow a multifamily up to 12 dwelling units per acre, meaning today that the property owner, the applicant, whoever has the interest could go and submit a building permit for the development of an apartment development here at up to 12 dwelling units per acre. With the 40 acres, that would be up to 480 apartment units on this site. The land use designation of rural living, again, identifies the planned residential at 2 units as an appropriate appropriate zoning. The RB zoning, if you look at those land use designations, just to kind of show how much more intensive the RB zoning district is, those land use designations are traditional neighborhood, corridor mixed use, town center mixed use, suburban mixed residential, and corridor commercial. So the majority of those are more commercially based zoning designations that are contemplated under the RB zone. And the residential neighborhood ones are the more intensive residential at much higher densities. The planned residential rezoning for the property at 2 dwelling units per acre is notably a lot less intense or dense of a development than what could be developed there by right under the existing RB. As you're aware, with the planned residential, unlike the RB zoning designation, we have to go through development plan approval, where different plans are submitted, grading plans, the subdivision layout plans are required to be submitted to the Planning Commission. Those are approved by them. Also, as part of that, based on this zoning designation, for this type of property, it would also require a traffic impact study to be submitted. That'd be prepared by an engineer and submitted to the planning staff and for the Planning Commission to adopt those recommendations, those requirements that are set forth in that traffic impact study. This also would provide for additional public review, public input at the Planning Commission meeting, where the planning commissioners would consider the development plan and the concept plan. Submit that the request at planned residential at 2 dwelling units per acre is consistent with the growth policy plan and is consistent with the new comprehensive land use plan. We request that you rezone the property from the RB and agricultural zoning to planned residential at a density of up to 2 dwelling units per acre for the subject property because it is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. Thank you.
Thank you. If opposition would come forward, please. If you'd introduce yourself and address, please.
Absolutely. My name is Darren Maroney. I live at the old white farmhouse at 704 Highland View. So I live 156 feet from 8922 Pickens Gap. The interesting thing about this is the advanced plan was designated 8922, and I believe the outer edge of my property is agricultural, not for RB zoning. So I actually have a legal question that I would like an answer. With the new advanced Knox plan, does it eliminate the RB zoning?
I think that's a fair question. Law Director Moyers.
At
And-
this
and let me
point,
add one extra caveat. My property is also RB zoning.
Okay.
Which we will be changing in the coming months.
my understanding, first of all, we are getting ready to do a new comprehensive rewrite of the zoning, the whole zoning code, and it may or may not include an RB zone.
Okay?
But one thing that was made clear throughout the process of adopting a new growth plan and a comprehensive plan was that nobody's property zoning, current zoning, was going to be affected by that.
Okay.
So that property that was RB is still RB.
Okay.
It just, and potentially you could zone other property currently to RB if it was consistent with the comprehensive plan. That will change or may change when we do the new overall zoning rewrite. But
Okay.
currently, that RB zone is still there and
Okay.
active.
Thank you for the clarification on that. So the Knox County Planning Group recommended this be a one dwelling unit per acre property. It's a fantastic property. It's gorgeous. My wife and I bought our house a year ago. We thought the property was set, it was intact, young family. Something happened, they decided to sell. It's their choice. It's going to change South Knoxville. Once the quality is taken away, it can never be put back. So I'm going to ask about that in thinking about the decision. I've had many conversations with the Schulers. They've been wonderful. They've been gracious, in talking about it. We've talked about different plans and different ideas. We have different ideas as to what fits there properly. So as to the number of cars, Knox County Planning said there's going to be 1,600 cars a day in and out of that particular process. That goes all the way up Pickens Gap to Tarquin Valley, hangs a right-hand turn, goes out to East Hendron Chapel. That's 4.7 miles of a single stream of cars. That's part of the impact that's coming here. I'm for development. I'm not going to argue that, but do it appropriately. So with that, I'm going to say that, and if we could add some massive landscape barriers, if you do approve 2 dwelling units per acre, because they're also going to take down a massive ridge that separates the view of my property from theirs. Thank you very much for your time and everything else.
All right, stop the clock, please. There was about 2 minutes left if you'd like to use the rest of that time. Well, you're the one standing up, so.
Okay.
If you would introduce yourself, please.
My name's Jennifer Morton. I live at 8217 Pickens Gap Road, so I'm along this roadway here. I'm also a lawyer in town, but I am not representing the community in this, and in fact, it's not the area of law that I practice, so I really don't have the basis of knowledge. But I am here as a member of the community because, initially, there was massive objection from the community about the application, and we understand that MPC is recommending 1 unit per acre, and that was partly protective because of the RB zoning, and so we get that, and if we must go with that, then we ask you at least to follow the staff recommendation. But we also understood from the Schulers that they pulled the application in order to get the 2 units per acre, which would allow 168 houses on this 40-acre, very rural area that is outside the advanced Knox planning designation. So that we are in the agricultural rule, the area that's supposed to be protected from the sprawl. But, the 2 units per acre would put 160 acres on this very rural area that sits right next to the gap on Pickens Gap, which is something that if you've never been out that way, it's very difficult to go through this very sharp, steep, it's got edges and it turns and there's no real side on the road. 2 cars can't really pass in that area. And the entrance to that is right there. Not to mention there's no way to get on and off Chapman Highway unless you travel 4 miles to get to a light. But in any event, we simply ask that, if we have to go with the 1 unit per acre that was recommended, we will live with that, but please don't go for the 2 units per acre that is being asked for by Heartland Development, because it's a very agricultural area. You can't see the other subdivisions from that spot. I'm sorry, Bobby, can I save 1 minute or 1 second?
Sir, if you'd still like to speak, maybe 30, 45 seconds, please, I'll give you.
Thank
and
you for your
Madam
Mr.
Chair.
Taylor, I'll give you a minute or so to.
Madam Chair, point of privilege, let Mr. Smeltzer speak also. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just said I would.
Okay. I'm assuming that very few of y'all have visited that part of town.
Would you introduce yourself, sir?
I'm Bobby Smeltzer. I was raised in Tarleton Valley. I bought my family's old home place, and I spent some time there. So I could tell you a whole lot about the whole neighborhood as far as that goes, but the problem I see with this is that it is outside of the growth plan, and the fact that everything around there is agriculture, and how in the world it ever got zoned like it did back in the 60s or whenever, I have not a clue, neither does anybody here have a clue of that. But everything out there is pretty much agriculture, you know, and the commission has said, you know, 1 house per acre, and I think that that's something that we could all live with. I myself has made a living working with developers and working with builders, and, you know, that's just been my life. And so I understand, but I don't want that part of town to look like what Hardin Valley does and a lot of the other places, because we don't have the roads to accommodate that. We have 1 red light to get on Chapman Highway from that side of town, unless you drive another 2 miles, and then you've got narrow roads, and you can come out at Lowe's or Food City there, and that's the only other red light other than the one at Henderson Chapel. So, you know, I was for a road being built, and that's what we were promised when the South Knoxville road came across, the bridge came across.
Please wrap it up, sir,
Okay.
quickly.
But that got stopped. But my point is traffic, okay? If you've not ever traveled Chapman Highway, we get Pigeon Forge traffic, we get all the Seymour traffic, we get Blount County traffic.
Yes, sir.
And we're loaded up with traffic, and we have no other roads to come into Knoxville unless you choose crooked roads. So we could live with
All right.
1 house per acre.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Mr. Forrester, did you have anything to add to that? All right. Do we have any discussion on this? Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have a chance to drive out there and take a look at this. I just wanted to point out too, first, I think RB is too broad and it's often used without adequate justification, in my opinion, and I hope that we really closely look at that when we do create the UDO. Second of all, I just want to point out policy 3.3 of the growth plan. It allows 2 units per acre in the rural areas with reductions in density when a site has steep slopes. The slope analysis is recommending a density of 1.3, and the growth plan max density is 1.2. So I think that planning got it right, recommending 1 unit per acre, subject to 1 condition: the steep slopes remain undisturbed. You know, I would even discuss additional conditions if this body thinks that it's appropriate, so that we do protect any adjacent property owners, possibly with some sort of landscape screen.
Thank you. Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question for engineering again. Pickens Gap Road, is it currently designed to handle the over 1,600 vehicle trips per day out of that development at the requested 2 units an acre?
I would say to the west, yes. To the east, going into Sevier County, it gets narrow. We've not seen a traffic impact analysis yet, so as part of the scoping for that study, we've asked them to evaluate road widths and what the impact of this traffic will be on those roads.
Are they in that 22-foot, or are they the 16 to 18? Because I couldn't see it in any notes here where you guys put that in the paperwork for us.
I had some guys go measure it today, and from Tarleton Valley back to Tipton Station, it averages between 24 and 26 feet wide. From Tarleton Valley to the, and I'm sorry, is that Blount or Sevier County?
Severe, I believe.
Sevier County, it is, it's about 17 feet wide, back that way.
And that is asphalt?
Yes, that's asphalt,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Jay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm struggling with this one because I feel like we're about to hit a repeat button of what happened last month, where you can have the thing that you don't like the most, which is there now, or the thing you don't like it as well over here, which is the thing potentially to come. And we just went through this where this body decided to sort of stick to the absolute XYZ, and it gave exactly everything that the neighbors did not want. And so Commissioner Daley always says RB is the worst zoning, and I, tend to agree in a lot of cases. And somebody could go and put a tremendous amount of apartments on there like tomorrow. And and it would never come to this body. It is like a by right. They just fill out the paperwork and go for it. And it is the worst thing that you guys do not, I promise you, do not want to be there. So we have an applicant sort of saying half of it's ag and half of it's RB, and we want to throw all that away for 2 units an acre, which is exactly the rural density that we've sort of overlaid in the whole county in our new growth plan. But if you do nothing, then you could have the worst thing ever, which is a whole bunch of apartments out in the middle of a really, rural area. So I'd love to hear the district commissioner's opinion on this, because I'm inclined to agree with the applicant so that the other thing that is 10 times worse doesn't happen. But I also understand the 1 and 2 and the rural area. So I'm stuck on this, and I'd love to hear your opinions. I mean, this is your backyard.
Commissioner Ward?
I kind of echo the same thing that Commissioner Jay just said. Do you want 400 and something units of apartments, and then the agricultural will get developed into 1 unit an acre, so you're going to have 450, 500 units, 1,000 plus cars just in there, or do you want 160? Similar to last week, this is why I always think the opinion of the 11 is a lot better than just black and white text. So, but I think the 2 units an acre, the neighborhood would be a lot happier with that versus 400 apartments and plus housing and everything else in there, personally. But again, I'd like to defer to the district commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to point out again that the growth plan and the growth map is regulatory. 1.2 is the max density according to the growth plan that this body should approve. Anything other than that, you are moving away from the law. Using the example from last month, several of you voted with moving away from the law because you felt like that's what was best for the constituents. It is our duty to follow the law. It is the duty and responsibility of the applicant and the opposition to understand what is happening, to ask questions, to reach out. I hate to say it that way, but that's kind of on them. We are here to follow the law. The growth plan and the growth map, it is regulatory. So I understand where you're coming from. I do. But as I said last month, and I'll say it again, we are not here to negotiate away from the law.
Commissioner Ward?
I'll make a comment on that one. I don't think we did a good job then, because I feel like we're elected to take all these things into consideration, and maybe we need to adjust the law, because here's the thing, if we're gonna go and not give them the 2 units an acre, they'll pull it like they did last week, and then these people are going to be stuck with 400-plus apartment buildings. I feel like this is going to keep coming up month after month after month. We're going to get different situations like this where, hey, the common sense logical thing, which might not, be applicable from the law that we put together a month ago, well, maybe the law needs to be adjusted so that we can have some more leeway on making good decisions for good growth, because in this situation, I think everybody would agree that a 400-unit apartment building wouldn't be good growth for this area. I highly think that you think of 400, but that's what the case is. But we don't have the gray area or the leeway to make that decision. We put black and white paper into place, and that's what we have to follow, which the citizens elected us for our judgment, not just to follow the black and white paper when it doesn't make any sense. I feel like this is going to be repeat over and over again, but just stating my opinion on the facts.
Commissioner Frazier?
To Commissioner Ward's comment, I think that's what the applicant is trying to do. I think he's trying to look at where we want to grow and how we can grow, and that's why he or she offered the rezoning of PR.
Yeah, 2 an acre is what they requested. I think
Well,
they're trying to do the right
Have we heard
thing.
from them that,
I think they're trying to do a good thing, like what you just said. They have the right vision, which I think is the right vision, but what you just said is we can't give them the right vision, even though we all think it's probably the right thing to do. And they're not going to be able to make enough money off the 1 unit an acre to make it work. They're much better off selling the property at the RB and making a lot more money off the RB.
I think that's something I would like to hear from them, from the applicant. The staff recommendation, are they supportive of the staff recommendation?
No, we're asking for PR at 2 dwelling units an acre.
Any other questions or comments before I turn it to Commissioner Daly? Commissioner Daly, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is, like you've heard me say before, and I voted against last month, and I'll probably vote, I know I'll vote against it next month on RB. RB is the worst zoning. And when it comes to the use of the land, I don't look at, I've been accused, and we all have been accused of looking at developers, okay? I don't look at developers. I don't look at it applicants or anything. I look at the use of the land. If RB stays with this land, it could be sold 2 or 3 times down the road, and RB will be there. It's always going to be there, and somebody at RB is going to develop it. Either it's 2 years from now, 3 years from now, or 5 years from now. Highland View is going to grow. All the land around Bowers Field is going to be growing. There's going to have to be a red light put at Highland View. That will eventually have to happen. Pickens Gap, I wished every county in the road was as wide as Pickens Gap. 24 to 26 foot wide. Highland View is probably 20 plus on that. And on the traffic study, it may be that we have to look at putting a red light there at Highland View. And that's a very good possibility. There'll be a red light there soon as the other development around Chapman Plaza, Chapman City, Bowerfield area. Once it starts growing, I can foresee Highland View taking not a sharp right, but a right up to the top of the hill, and there's going to be a red light there. It's going to make entrance and exits, it's a whole lot safer there at Highland View. I want to thank the Schulers for reaching out to the citizens. I want to thank the citizens for reaching out to them and been to a couple of the meetings. They've had a couple of meetings and they've all been cordial, all cordial meetings. Some of the comments that I've received, well, it may be a threat. I don't look at it, things being a threat or not a threat, because we hear threats all the time up here on County Commission. It is zoned, 40 acres of it is zoned RB. I don't like RB. I will make the motion for PR at 2, so I can get rid of that RB zone, because Heartland is in the development business, is what they are. They're there to develop the land and sell it off to someone else. And if that RB stays there, somebody eventually will build. We're growing in South Knoxville. Like it or not, I've been a South Knoxvillian for 60 years or more. I'll be 65 here pretty soon. I wished it was the same as it always been, but it's not. But I can promise you, I don't want to see RB. I don't want to see RB on John Sevier Highway. I don't want to see RB on Pickens Gap, Highland View, anywhere. So it's not a fit. And I think Director Brooks, I talked to her one time, we don't even know where the RB came from, do we? It's been, Director Brooks, we can build on RB, trailers, tiny homes, storage container homes, townhouses, apartments. We got RB, and we got RB there on John Sevier Highway that they're building container homes on. And they don't look good. Not at all. They're container homes, and they're not a fit to the neighborhood. And I just don't like RB, and I'm asking you to do away with RB, and the RR rural residential gives us the opportunity to approve up to 2 dwelling units an acre. That's what we can do. So I am going to make a motion. I see Commissioner Schoonmaker's lights on. Do you have a comment, or just kind of go ahead and make the motion? Or?
I've got a question,
Okay.
and I guess
I'll yield to Commissioner Schoonmaker.
Go ahead. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I guess it's for you, Commissioner Daly. Based on the testimony of Commissioner Frazier, how legally, I'm not comfortable with voting for something more than 1.2 dwelling units per acre because of the constraints of not wanting to violate the law and the rules that we've now adopted. How does that look to the people in my district where we went through this whole process for 2 years? We finally got together, made a unanimous decision, and then we don't want to follow the rules. So, and I know there's a lot here on this of us that some of them are wanting to be a commissioner again on September 1st. So how do they go back to their constituents and say, hey, it's supposed to be 1.2, but you didn't want to do that, you voted for 2?
Thank you, Commissioner. I don't understand where Commissioner Frazier's coming from.
It's in the notes.
When the RR, when the rural residential says that a property owner can have up to 2 dwelling units an acre. Is that not correct? Mr. Law Director, can they have up to 2 dwelling units an acre?
Well, I would defer to Ms. Brooks. Given, I think it's a general rule, but as I understand it, this property is limited by some slopes. Ms. Brooks,
This is where it gets a little complicated because we've been in the midst of transitioning from plans. So when this application came in under the old plans, and there was a section in the growth policy plan that was in effect at the time, it's policy 3.3, that did speak to limiting density on certain slope percentages. So that was the plan in effect at that time. I think it's a little confusing too because the staff report also references the slope analysis, which is based on the Hillside and Ridgetop Plan, which is not an adopted plan, it's a guide. So the new growth policy plan does not have that same section, policy 3.3, excuse me. So in staff's opinion, the place type is rural living, it's in the rural area. The consideration can be up to 2 dwelling units per acre.
Okay,
Planning
so
Commission and staff are not recommending that.
there's no slope limitation that would prevent that? in the new growth plan.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mr.
Since I was asking you a question, you answered it, can I then follow up where I was basing my comments on the 1.2? In reading by the information that was provided by Knox Planning on page 21-3, it says down towards the bottom, the maximum density allowed based on the policy 3.3 of the growth policy plan is approximately 1.2 dwelling units an acre. But that's not what the notes say. The notes says the proposed amendment shall be consistent with and not in conflict with the general plan of Knoxville, Knox County.
Ms. Brooks, when the staff developed these notes, was it before the adoption of the new growth plan?
Yes, it was. If you'll notice, it's an April case.
So that explains the disparity, that they were looking at a policy that was under the old growth plan, that where the slope would have been taken into consideration, and these policy 3.3 would have been taken into consideration, but that is policy 3.3 under the old growth plan. Because that, and this is another one of those weird cases where we had something coming through before we adopted the new plan. All of our decisions now have to be consistent with the new growth plan. And if policy 3.3 that's referenced here is not part of the new growth plan, then it does not limit the maximum density. The maximum density would be 2. Now, that doesn't mean you're required to give 2. You can still give 1. You give half if you wanted to. But it would appear to me that 1.2 is based on verbiage that was in the old plan. And so that no longer applies since the new plan was put into effect.
Commissioner
Director
Schoonmaker,
Brooks.
Did you have, hold on, did you have anything else to respond directly to his comment?
No, Madam Chair, thank you.
All right, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Brooks, if the motion is made to up to 2 units per acre, this will be decided at concept plan. Concept plan, you can go, even though the Ridgetop Hilltop is not a binding document, it still is, it's still being used today.
Yeah, staff uses it to guide our recommendations.
I'm sorry, I didn't
Staff
hear.
does use it to guide our recommendations at this stage and at the next stage as well.
So it's not necessary, it's up to 2 units per acre. That will happen at concept plan. And that concept plan is where the property owner brings it, and another opportunity where RB gives us 0 opportunity to review. Mr. Forrester. Road improvements is the property on, well, are you willing to do the road improvements that, I know the section, you could probably come out at, and I would think that Mr. Elliott might agree that if there is interest there, should come out at Tarkland Valley and Pickens Gap. It's where it caused, there's no use having 2 entrances, one at the, on the east end and one on the, kind of on the south end or north end. It should come out in a straight, and that's the width of the road, 24 to 26 feet. But if there's road improvements, you're willing to do those type of road improvements.
Sure. I mean, we'll have to do the traffic impact study, which we'll have to follow the kind of requests that Knox County Engineering will put into those for what they want us to search. And then what those improvements or recommendations come out, yes, we'll follow the recommendations of the traffic impact study and the requirements of Knox County Engineering.
I believe also that during one of our meetings that there was discussion of a buffer zone. Are you willing to, in the concept plan, to do a buffer zone around the, of course, on the hillside, you're not, I can't foresee anything happening on the hillside at all. So there's not really, the need for a buffer zone will be on where Mr. Maroney's property line is. there, which will be the north.
Yeah, we'll have the peripheral setback through the development plan, submitting the concept plans, and determining kind of the layout as to what makes sense here. You know, it's going to be obviously cost determinative on what, where the development gets, how it gets platted, how it gets laid out. But yeah, obviously during the development plan discussions, we'll engage in keep the conversations open. And I'm not exactly sure where Mr. Maroney's property is, but in relations to how this would be laid out. But obviously we'll take into considerations those neighbors and creating suitable buffers.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner, let's see, Commissioner Schoonmaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just came up with one question for planning. Planning voted 12-1 to move this to 1 unit per acre. I was not in attendance at that meeting. Can you, based on your recollection, why the Planning Commission went for 1 dwelling unit per acre?
I don't remember the exact conversation, Commissioner, but I do know there was references to some of the things that have been brought up this evening related to roadway infrastructure, the rural nature, a lot of the things that have been outlined in the staff report.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner or Director Brooks, if this fails, then existing zoning applies.
Correct. If you all were to deny the request altogether, it would be RB.
It would be RB.
It would remain, yes.
And that is a big part of the problem, because that is absolutely not what these people want. Commissioner Daly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Like I say, I look at the land. I don't look at the property owner. I look at the land, and RB is not appropriate. I'm going to make a motion that to approve PR at 2 units per, up to 2 units per acre with a non-vegetation barrier zone on the north side of the property. Is that right, Amy? Pull up the map right here.
With a
It would be
Non-vegetated?
vegetative.
Non-vegetative removal buffer. They cannot, in other words, that 35 feet setback or whatever, they cannot, you cannot disturb that.
So if I could just clarify, you want a 35-foot vegetated buffer to remain?
Non-vegetated buffer removal zone. They cannot,
want to keep the
vegetation
I want to keep the vegetation there.
undisturbed.
Undisturbed zone there of at least 35 feet on that property line.
Along the,
Along. Yeah, this side, which would be north.
right here.
Is this true north, looking at this map?
Well, that's hard to see on the,
Well, it looks like it is.
It's the side closest to Highland View.
site closest to Island View, which should be north because east, east, it should be north, the north side. Steve, does that make sense to you?
Yes, Commissioner, it does. There does look like a portion where it's just field now and there's no vegetation there. Are you requesting they add vegetation in that area?
I would request that there would be a buffer zone there, some type of vegetated buffer, A or B,
Okay. We can take care of that.
to be there.
Would you
Okay.
would you like to specify what that is, or just that it's to not remove the existing vegetation and then to add?
A type, is it?
Type A is
B?
the densest.
Yeah, type B buffer zone.
Type
on
B is
the
not,
open air.
it's continuous, but it's not the densest.
Correct.
Okay.
Which I think they would probably have done anyway because of to block the views and everything, both sides. So that's, Madam Chair, you want to read it back and see if
To approve up to 2 per acre with
PR of the 2 an acre with a vegetation zone on the northern side of 35 feet, keeping the vegetation there, but adding a B vegetation to what is currently level land.
that is correct.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor by Daley, a second by Ward. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record reflect 8 ayes, 1 no, 1 pass. Let the record reflect 2 noes, 1 pass, and 7.
No, there's 10 here.
7 ayes, 2 noes, and 1 pass. Motion carries. All right, there are no zoning appeals. There are no amendments to be heard. Is there any public forum on open topics? Anyone wishing to speak? No one has signed up. All right, is there any other business? Seeing none, a reminder, Commissioners, next week will be our regular agenda meeting, 5 o'clock. Beer Board will be at 4 o'clock. All right. Commissioner Daley, Courtney. Commissioner Durrett. You.
You over there, that's
You.
fine. And also, just wanted to remind commissioners to have everything that you want pulled from consent by Wednesday at noon. If you did pull something and it was resolved today at our agenda review meeting, you can put that back on consent. Just make those notations on the forum.
Thank you for that. I will be posting tonight all items pulled from consent. If you want to add to that, please post that. Really, it needs to be posted tomorrow. And I appreciate your patience. We're kind of feeling our way through this next month or so with our new schedule. We are adjourned.